Hello, this is Blair Stanislao with the Happy Lion Center. Welcome to our podcast, Mystical and Infamous, where we have playful and easy conversations about anything mystical, getting to the heart of all things strange and weird. Join us in a bit of magical tomfoolery, spreading the alchemy of love and light. And now, we invite you to enjoy the show. So last time we met, we started to touch on communicating with the body, and you have had some interesting experiences where I don't know how you would describe it. I got the impression that it was kind of like you got into a space where you could hear your body communicating with you. Almost, was it through language or what was it? What did it feel like?
Well, first of all, it felt like there was somebody else there. Okay. Not like an entity, not like when I'm in Reiki and people show up for the person that I'm doing Reiki on. This was just like more of an awareness that, oh, this is me. And then I thought, no, this isn't me. But this is a part of me that wants to say something. And then the saying was more like, just be quiet, Kathie. Like when somebody's telling you really important thing, mm-hmm. and you're not thinking any thoughts, you're simply listening. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. I listened.
So can you tell me what prepared you to get in that position? Because I think that's a position that a lot of people struggle with.
Well, I was writing. I think anytime we can do forms of meditation that are mindful, that we can be in that state and be aware. But I think we have to really have a lifestyle where we're paying attention and doing that consciousness raising in ourselves. Maybe it happens for some people just happening, but I think that a person needs to have a prayer lifestyle, an awareness of some kind, a consciousness, a willingness to set aside my own ego and just let whatever's in there be. Just be quiet. It's really, really, really hard to learn. And I say that only because there are many people striving to learn that. And part of the striving creates stress, and stress
that makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of actually disagree with you a little bit in the sense that I think that those practices do create that environment. But I think there are a lot of us who don't have the language or don't have the experience, not it's not ability, it's the just simple experience or the words to go around that sort of experience. Because I think there are people who are not innately, quiet or, pensive or, any number of words you could say that basically means this person thinks, right? I mean, the definition of meditation is to think. So mindfulness is really to think, which is meditation, right? So I think we have a tendency to go there. And I would describe it more as like almost a feeling where your body is relaxed and not screaming at you. Meaning, and I don't mean like what you're talking about, the communication. I mean, like a body part of yours really hurts, right? And then all you can kind of think of is, oh, this hurts. Oh, this hurts so bad, Not in that kind of a situation. Like you need to feel safe. You need to feel comfortable. If you're feeling good about something, but it could be writing, like that's a creative venture. And I know exactly what you're talking about because I've done artwork and I've gotten in that place before.
Yes. Artwork's great.
It's like a zone, it's like a feeling of calmness where your mind isn't overtaking. It's not that your mind's not present, but your mind's not overtaking the situation. So I think that especially when we talk about it and we say things like it's really hard. I think it's kind of a little bit defeating in some ways, but I also think I think it's actually both. I think it's actually really hard in the sense that it's difficult to reach that point sometimes. But I also think it's incredibly easy because as soon as you get to that point and you recognize how it feels, it's so easy to go back there.
Once it happens
Yeah.
and you're aware, yes.
Yeah.
And I think we have that happen throughout childhood, especially when we play.
Yes. Right. You're calm, you're comfortable, you feel safe, your body's not screaming at you. Same kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. And it's not so much play acting as it is just being. And I think being a child is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And last year I had cancer, and I found after that, after all of the surgeries and the doctor appointments and one thing after the other, I decided one day to take a look at my body, look at the whole of me, my physical self. And I stood in front of my full length mirror in my bedroom and after my shower, and I thought, my goodness, you're beautiful. I never have said that to me ever, even at my younger years. And what I was seeing were all the scars from the surgeries I've had.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had many. I mean, they've all been repaired. It's kind of like being in an old car. Get parts repaired and replaced. And I just thought, my goodness, you're beautiful. You have handled this, talking to my body, you have handled all of this and you have done it with me or with my help, but mostly you've done it without my help, with my not being aware, just complaining like when I was wrapped with this really tight wrap around my chest and just griping about it every day.
Yeah.
Thinking, when will this ever end? And I'm thinking, don't be rude, Kathie. You need to be kind about this. It's healing you and all that kind of stuff. But then I was just thinking, want it done.
Yeah.
But when I was looking at her, I thought, wow, look what she's been through. I mean, it's like war. She's been through a lot. And that's only the outside. That's just the body that we see. The healing on the inside, I mean, even the breasts were still having, the breast area was still having to heal on the inside, even though the outside had healed. And I thought, wow, what are you doing in there? What an amazing thing we are. And I just was so appreciative. And so every day since then, I say thank you. Every day. And that has nothing to do with how I look. It's all about this incredible mechanism that I'm in and will be in until she says, I'm done. Yeah. You go on. I got a rest to take, and that's what I believe will happen. And I will go on.
I find that really interesting that you're talking about, you were just looking necessarily at the outside. That's all we can see, right?
Yeah.
But I have always been my whole life. I don't know. I guess it calls attention for me. I mean, as you were saying that, it just reminded me of all the times I had gotten bruises or sometimes cuts. I mean, bruises are kind of external, but cuts too. And, but not even that. I mean, I've dislocated my shoulder twice. I've had surgery on joints, and the injuries that cause those things to happen, which those particular things there was no surface area that you could see that there was anything wrong with it. Right. And I distinctly remember, I mean, even as a kid, I can remember having a cut or something on my leg or hand or something like that. And as it heals, you get that itching sensation sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. My mom would always say, yeah. She would always say that's good. But there were times that I would I think because I was in those states, and like I had a tendency to be quiet and kind of not necessarily talk, but kind of just observe the world around me. And I would interact as much as I needed to, but I would just observe. And so I was present enough in my body that I would notice things like, I mean, I could, if I had the ability to draw this really quickly, I would do it. But basically, I can feel sometimes the tissues like reconnecting, almost like, it's obviously
Wow.
it turns into scar tissue, right? But you can kind of
Yeah.
feel that reconnecting. And it's kind of funny that we're talking about now because, you and I done Reiki together. And that was the time, the first time I got Reiki done as an adult, a real adult, I would say, out of college. I thought I was feeling all kinds of sensations as she was going. I think she must start at the top, or I don't know. It felt like she started on my left side and then went around, like went up to the top and went down.
Oh,
But
okay.
as she was over my midsection, I felt these sensations and I thought to myself, okay, that's like, not that it was hurting, but it was like, that is movement at this particular spot, exactly where I kind of always have a problem, but there's no way I can articulate this. And then I just thought, okay, I'm just crazy. I'm just going to lay here, keep doing this, and kept trying to refocus. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So she went all around and she gets down to my foot where I had torn it. I had torn a tendon when I was in college, and it was extremely painful for a long, long time. And then eventually it just turned, it's traumatic. The event itself was a traumatic, but I played volleyball and I kept playing on it because I didn't want to be a wimp, and I'd never injured myself really. And then, 9 months later, 10 months later, when I wound up having surgery on it, then all the pain that comes from that and all the healing and so forth. So I had more than a year of just constant pain in my foot. And so all the different sensations that I experienced at different times, she's on my foot. And I know it so well. I'm so familiar with it that the energy, what I now know, now since I've been to the last class with you, I now know all these sensations are just feeling energy move. But it was exactly on that tendon where I was like, okay, I finally sat up and looked at her because I wanted to see if she was touching me. And I was like, I know I can feel that. I know I'm not crazy. I know exactly what part that is. But it is interesting, the differences between what's going on the outside, what you can physically see. Because my whole life, most of the time I get a bruise and I'm like, wow, that hurts, and then I hit it again and I'm like, gosh, that hurts so bad. And I keep looking at it thinking it's going to look like I got, in a car wreck or something, but it never seems to look like that. So it's kind of defeating, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And the body is an amazing function. It does so much on its own.
On its own. But when it needs help, when it is hurting and it can't go any further, when it's done its work and it's just kind of like putting its hands on its hips and going, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
You better help me. It's got all sorts of signs and symptoms that we oftentimes ignore because we're used to our stress.
Yes.
And we're used to basically holding it. And then we think when we go on a vacation that because we're kind of coming down that we have gotten rid of stress. Oh, no, we haven't even begun to release the stress because we come back into other issues, stomach issues, gastrointestinal issues, constipation, diarrhea. All those things are symptoms of what's really going on in the body, and she needs help.
Yeah. I almost kind of wonder how many of us really can remember a state of homeostasis where things are working the way they're supposed to be.
I wonder that too. I wonder if in childhood, because I had a healthy childhood, I'm physically healthy. Very few of us in my family were sick, if we were, mama just got right on it and gave us some kind of home remedy and we knew we were well. It was determined, but I that's the only time I can think that would have been there. But I do know that from the stressors in the home, that can't have been true.
Yeah.
So I'm saying two things there.
Yeah. I've been an IBS sufferer for more than 20 years. And so the symptoms were coming out, and I would say I have it in pretty good control now. But it's been a huge, to have it for more than 20 years, somebody who has IBS knows this is, it's kind of like, to what degree do you have it? How much does it ruin your life? I didn't have it as bad as a lot of people have had it, but when you talk to people who've had this condition, or any condition that they're living with chronically, it sounds like, from somebody who's not suffering, it sounds like, okay, you're making excuses, like you're trying to make it sound good. It's not good. Like that thing is not supposed to happen. And I even, continually looking back, trying to figure out, like, when was I first experiencing this? What is it that I'm really experiencing? And I can remember being very, very young. I mean, I've quit eating dairy pretty much. And that's a big deal because I used to love it. Like, I would rather had milk for dinner than anything else. Like, wishing that milk was dog food, like I didn't have to pick the food. I could just drink milk. But just thinking about it for so long, I wound up, one of my research, I was just going off on a tangent, reading something. I found a book, and it was this, it was published in like 99, I think. And it's this doctor with an allergy book. And it was specifically triggered for how to recognize allergies in your children. And so all the physical symptoms. And I just glanced at that book and I thought to myself, I had like 10 of those all the time, Yeah. So like if I'm not supposed to have been drinking milk, like maybe I do. I know I don't have an allergy, but I have a sensitivity, right?
Yes.
How long?
Yeah.
I mean, because I think my father gave me eggnog, which of course is milk, eggs, and sugar.
Yeah.
Right?
All the dairy.
All before I was probably when I was about 3 months old.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I've ever really experienced a time when, food hasn't been causing me an issue. Maybe that started it. I don't know, but I think you're right. I think there's a kind of a constant state of managing those stresses. And something that was brought to my attention this morning, earlier today, anyways, if you're not really aware of that constant stress that's on your nervous system, things get so out of whack and you just don't notice it. And you think you're, like you just articulated, you think you're fine, you're coming down, but no, you're not.
No, because it's just a split second away from reacting, or
right. And that means it's way too
irritated or frustrated or like, what happened here? I was okay. I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how we could, have you found a way that you can tune into it quicker than you did before? Is it something that helped? I
think that gratitude for my body and the work she's doing is making me aware of what she will continue to do. She will do it till the day I die. And if I die earlier because I continue with some of the patterns I have, she will be right there with me doing what she can do. But if I listen to a resistance that maybe she's putting up, if I listen, if I pay attention, I really believe I know then what not to do. But changing that is about changing something in my life. And who wants to do that? I'm always overbooked. I've always had too much to do. I have a calendar that's always full. And this last couple of weeks, I've been with a lot of family and I wasn't at work. And I love my work. I love it. And when I'm no longer going to do it, I will still be working, doing something, because I love working, but I love what I do. I love my clients. But what I found was I was just about to the end of my time in Everett and coming home, and a couple of clients, are texting. They don't know I'm gone, right? So can we do this? Can I change this? Can I? And I felt that. I felt that tension.
Yeah.
And I was back at work right away. And I thought,
you could feel the shift because you had let it go.
I didn't even take my appointment book. That is a new and first time thing. And I thought, you're really being brave now.
Yeah.
And so I left it home on purpose so I'd be present to whatever I was doing. And I was. And this was about Thursday. And I got the first one was just a very simple one. I need to reschedule because I'm taking care of somebody. And right away I felt interfered, like someone had taken what I was doing and turned my head fast back into this life. Not because I don't want to do it, and not because I don't care about this client. It was a little thing, but I felt the shift immediately. And I think it's because I've been working working, I guess is the word to use, at being aware and paying attention to her, my body. And she knew that change. She felt the shift. She had been going, and then here I come in. Whoop, okay, over here, got work to do. And I was right there. And I felt it. And then there was another one that came through that was a little more complicated. And I thought, I don't want to do this. I want to be where I am. And so I let it be, because I could feel the tension rise. It wasn't a big thing. It wasn't an icky thing. But it probably is in my body. And I've ridden on my good health all these years. I call it good health. I haven't necessarily taken care of this body. I just ended up with a good one. I did. Not everybody gets to have the strength and health that I have. And I'm not bragging about it. I didn't do anything for that. And on again, off again with diets and exercise and, just not staying with it. But this body keeps producing and caring and regenerating and doing the healing that bodies do all the time. That's their job. If they don't keep healing us over and over, we die. I mean, the cells are always being regenerated. And because they are, our bodies are hard at work. And when we get sick or we have some kind of interference, then our bodies are diverted to taking care of that. And other things then have to be set aside for a moment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You said that just recently happened. Now I'm going to say this like I'm ignorant. I do think there is I don't get into like super uptight about where the planets are, but I do astrology and I know it has an impact. And there are a lot of planets in retrograde right now. So there's a lot of stuff that's, I don't think turmoil is necessarily the word. I think an inner turmoil is a better description of it, because retrograde makes you go back and think, and in the areas that those planets are. So it's just basically a lot of kind of forcing people to stop and rethink the way they're doing things. And I definitely I did get sick last week, but that's not even what I would say, because I was sick enough that I decided, nope, not doing anything. Like, I'm not even getting out of bed. I'm canceling everything I had to do.
Right.
But it's interesting that you say how, you kind of came out of the regular work mode, which is a certain level of stress. And then you were able to get into a more relaxed state, and you were really enjoying and relishing that. And then when a trigger came and you started to feel that going back to the work state, you noticed the change, which is such a big deal. I mean, I can remember being on birth control when I was young, and then I had a baby, and then we said, oh, well, you get back on birth control. And I got on, and I was on that for less than 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I never used it before,
Yeah.
And then this week too, I have something that I have probably been avoiding too much, because otherwise I would just go into it and do it. But it's something I want to do. It's something I feel like I need to do. And the person I'm working with had messaged me, and there was nothing wrong with her message, and there was no reason that she shouldn't have messaged me. It was absolutely appropriate in every way. But I could also feel the tension in me, just my body. And then I could even feel my mind like going back and forth about, oh, what am I going to say? And then, like more than 24 hours later, it was interesting because I was just kind of watching myself respond to just a simple text. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing evolution, but just to notice that physical change is the first step. And I know that Americans, generally speaking, teach each other to ignore the body.
That's and then if there is an issue, just go to the doctor.
Right. You
and
go
the
to somebody
doctor
else to fix this thing instead turn around and asking yourself what's going on. And how does the doctor know? It's going to be guessing. Whereas you can connect to your inner, whatever that part, like you said, that part of you that doesn't change, right? You're connected
right.
to that part of you and it knows you on every cellular level.
It deep in the cell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she is just constantly working on that and she loves it. That's what our bodies do.
Yeah.
They're designed to. They're not lazy.
No.
I might get lazy. I might not move her muscles. I might not be, into the game, but she's not lazy. She is still pumping out the right hormones. She's still sending the right messages as far as the nervous system goes. And she's just busy all the time, 24/7. But when I don't help her
By listening to her, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing there is called respect. And I don't think we're taught to do that with our bodies. We look at our bodies and we see the symptoms that are issues that have developed, become, if not just staying in the acute, but going to the chronic. And we look at those issues as the problem. Mm-hmm. And I really think that the real problem is the stress. Oh, yeah. And as Americans, it isn't respected. That whole issue of stress is not, it's just stress. It's not respected as a hindrance to being and fulfilling your life.
Well, too, I think it's a really good, if you can get more sensitively aligned to recognizing what it is, it's a really good indicator to, I think because we don't teach each other these things, we don't teach our children this. I try to now that I'm aware of it, but, and I think women do it more than men because that's the cultural role of most men. Yeah. But, when you start to listen to it, you can respond to it in a way and then it gets what it needs. And the key thing is with hypnosis, what I've learned is that the feelings are communication. Yeah. So the fact that I had a response, I had a mental response to the text, as did you, but we also had a physical response, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Emotions are more efficient at communicating. I think that's why babies are so in tune with their emotions and have such responses, because that's the most effective way to communicate. Like you don't even have to talk to somebody. If you can see them and you can kind of understand their feeling, you don't have to have their language. You can be two complete foreigners and you can still find a way to communicate without language. Yeah. But through hypnosis, that's really the messages that we get. Generally speaking, it's kind of like trying to interpret a dream. It's not necessarily what happened in the dream as much as it is, how'd you feel about it?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
So your ritual every day is just to appreciate. Now, how do you mind sharing exactly how you do that? And how does that play out throughout your day? Let's say you've done your gratitude time towards your body, but then something happens later in the day. What do you do?
Something negative or something challenging or shifting,
something that shifts. So it's like you're noticing a shift. I'm just trying to ask for the listeners, what is something like, what is your gratitude practice exactly? And what does that gratitude practice go throughout the day? Or is it just like, one time a day you're doing that? I get the impression it's probably not. It's probably something that's like a shift in your total thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would go back to Alcoholics Anonymous, whole message of attitude of gratitude, and learning how to be grateful for everything. One lady that I know, delightful person, says it's blessings or lessons, and both of them are to be thanked, because the lessons lead us into becoming the person that we are. They challenge us, they push us beyond our comfort zone, they assist us in, this is who I say I am. This is how I define me. And the blessings are just the gift that we have in life. And when we don't get snotty and think that we have earned them, but rather been granted them, then we have much to be thankful for. And I'm a person that has had a lot of loss. I'm old. And so, you experience even more and more. And what I figured out was it's okay. I don't have to be focused on just me and my feelings and my thoughts. I just need to be grateful I have the life that I have and I get to live it. I get to live it. I get to choose every single morning when I get out of bed what kind of attitude I'm going to have. And I start with a smile.
Yeah.
I start with a smile so that I am first to receive me. I get to be the first one who I'm kind to.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been hard work. You don't get to be an alcoholic without a whole lot of self-pity. Mm-hmm. And I had a whole lot of self-pity. And so you could just keep drinking when you have self-pity. And that just makes you a cranky old lady at a very young age.
Yeah.
And so that negativity, which masked a whole lot of grief and depression that time, needed to shift. And when it did, I was in my 30s. I had been searching. I had tried many different avenues, and I really believe all of them assisted me. Mm-hmm. But it was AA that gave me language and gave me the confrontation I needed to have to clean up my thoughts, mm-hmm. to clean up my attitude. And that started with being grateful for every single thing. You know how hard it is to be grateful for people you don't like?
Yes, it is hard.
And then take it into areas where you hate them,
Yeah. Yeah, I do know. I can't say that I've always liked everybody, but you're going through it. For me, it's always that little glimmer of hope. It's like, okay, I'm supposed to learn something from this.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting because, I guess I am where I am, but I find it, maybe it's because of the work that I do or whatever. And this is good or bad, but it is the truth that now that I know this, like I know that everything is either a blessing or a lesson, right? We know that, but we don't just like know it intellectually. We know it through and through. It's really interesting when I do have clients who come in. Usually when the clients are coming, they're tired and fed up with the excuses or whatever all the other rational thought is around it. I keep having this problem and I want to solve it. And so they come in and they're ready to listen. So I say the really hard stuff, which is exactly this. Like if you're having this lesson over and over again, then it's something that is inside of you. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. And I find myself watching just like regular everyday life and just kind of like pondering about like, well, what does that mean? Like we have a neighbor that got really irate at another neighbor, and because she had her dogs walking with her, there's no leash law. They're actually fine dogs. They're not like aggressive or anything. They're kind of ugly, right? But they're fine dogs. They're cute. And he got really mad at her, started yelling at her, and started yelling at the dogs. And the dogs were responding, and then he followed her home, and then he called the cops, and it was like, oh, this is big drama thing, right? But then I thought to myself, somebody else yelled at her on 4th of July. I'm kind of wondering what are the messages here? But I'm like that with myself. I'm like that with anything I see around. It's like, I really want to know those messages behind it so I can really solve, kind of get to the root of it.
Yeah.
But I think you have to have that right environment. And it sounds to me, from what I know about Alcoholics Anonymous, if it's the right environment, it is a place of almost like true love, like not, they don't play around with the superficial when you get there, it's like, okay, well, you've been playing this game.
Nail you to the wall.
Yeah. So I would imagine any kind of situation where you've got people who are ready to get to the root of anything, it would really help to really uncover whatever it is you need to. Because I think sometimes not only the physical things that we're doing that are stress, it, like you're saying, it's that negative talk that's just horrendous, and people are really, really bad at it. I mean,
and somehow or another, something's been unleashed that allows us to be rude now. And I remember I had a student that went home this was years ago. He went home and he said, boy, she uses that R word a lot. And the mother said, what R word? He said, respect.
Oh.
I mean, I'm glad I didn't use an F word. But I thought, by then, by the time I was in teaching, I had learned a whole lot from Alcoholics Anonymous. And that is where everything starts. It starts with respecting yourself and then learning how to respect the people around you. But you got to start with self. And self doesn't want to. Self wants to blame and look out outside of this, look outside those eyes into somebody else. It's easier to do that.
Easier. Yes, it's way easier to blame it on somebody else.
Blame.
Yep. And that is what society, I don't think it's really a conscious thing, but that's what, a baby comes into the world. They have to communicate with their parents to be able to survive, to physically survive. So we have to go out for a long time. And that's encouraged, right? But if you don't get that inward stuff too, then you lose that balance.
Well, and I see our news and I see pettiness, and it seems like reporters, I'm not saying all, because there's some wonderful ones out there, but there seems to be a need for sensation.
Oh, yeah.
Even headlines to grab your attention.
Yeah.
There will be a real negative twist to something that ends up being a positive story because negative sells.
Yes, it is. And as a matter of fact, that's part of I did teach journalism for a while, and that's the way you teach them. You have to teach them. It is sensationalized.
And you got to grab it.
Which is, it has its own merits. But the thing is, when it becomes reality and it's like that all the time, your system doesn't get a break because you hear this sensationalized headline or you read it or whatever, and you get tense. Your body physically gets tense. And I think that's why a lot of people who are starting to wake up, as we describe it, that's one of the first things that goes is they stop watching news or they stop being on social media and then a lot of them, and I'll be honest, I'm one of them. I just get to the point where I can't, no, I don't even want to. I sometimes I'll consume it through other people that I trust because they've softened it, but
or I start yelling.
Yeah.
I've yelled at the TV. I've yelled at my phone. I've yelled at because it just gets so tiresome.
Yeah.
Tiresome. And I think that's all you got. Come on, give me something good.
Yeah. It's not a very realistic perspective, I don't think, of the world.
I don't either. And it's not healthy.
No, because of the way it makes us feel, right?
And we do it. There are people in my age group that are retired and they sit in front of the TV.
Yeah.
And they consider themselves news junkies. Mm. And I'm kind of thinking, but you're seeing the same picture over and over all day long. And then maybe a week later, the same one. And you think that that's healthy. Yeah.
Well, I do find, I always found this really, really interesting. I've always had a wide range of different types of friends. And so, or in backgrounds and things, so I go hang out with one person and, you'd see different things in their house or whatever they're watching on TV or whatever, or things they're thinking about. And then you go to a person who's entirely different and it's totally not the same. I mean, it can be even dumbed down as much as, being with a man and letting him pick the channels, because I don't really like picking channels. Right. But so if I'm with a man and he's watching TV, that's one set of shows, but it's also one set of commercials. It's really funny. And then you go with a woman and it's entirely different. Then you go with elderly people, entirely different. I mean, it's just, and I'm sure if it was, I can't say that I sit around and watch a whole lot of really feminine TV shows, especially for young people. But if I did that, I imagine that'd be a whole nother bracket. And
it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like books, same thing, different genres.
Yes.
Depending on the people. Mm-hmm. Some people just want fluff.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I think it never does anything for me, but it does for them. What I'm told is it just takes me away.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is exactly what it does. It takes you out of your own mind.
Yeah.
It almost stops for some people, I think it stops their incessant talking, which a lot of it is probably not very nice.
Right. And that monkey mind that we have.
Yep.
Goes around and around. You asked me about the gratitude through the day, and I said I start with it, but I also close with that at night.
Yeah.
I always, every night am grateful for my health. And that's come since last year. I can't say I was that way before.
Interesting.
This is very specific because this is the first time the health thing was in that world that if it hadn't been dealt with could hurt.
Yeah.
I don't want pain.
Yeah.
It could be something that couldn't be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very, very grateful it was. And my body is very grateful that it was.
Yeah.
Because she is very clear about that. She didn't have any idea what to do with that thing. She surrounded it. She did everything she could do, and then she was done. And that was up to me to handle the rest, which was fine.
So
and
do you feel like you were able? Do you feel like you were able to sense when your body would, like you said, done?
Yeah, I know it.
So was this before or after you went to a doctor?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the diagnosis because I'd had a mammogram.
Okay.
That was all.
But you knew something was off anyways.
I knew that I had stage 1 breast cancer. I knew that.
Did you know before you had the mammogram?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not know. And that's happened to me over and over. For all the awareness of other things that I get, it seems like there are certain things that are just closed to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then I know what to do when I'm shown something. I don't have any problems with decision making, but I'm just not always aware, especially about her.
Yeah.
I ignored her all my life. She's just been there and she's worked hard and she's done all she needed to do. I always healed, but this one was different. For one thing, I was past all the markers
Mm-hmm.
for cancer. And it was there, front and center.
Yeah.
I never once was afraid. I never once was angry. I thought there's something wrong with you, Malby, because you didn't react like other people react when they get that message. The only thing I wanted was peace and quiet for a couple of weeks for me to process it for myself, to see what I felt and thought, and then put up with other people's reactions.
Other people's opinions and thoughts and everything. Boy, that's something.
And I didn't want to be taking care of everybody else's emotions if I hadn't first taken care of mine.
Wow, that's a really big thing. I know, being a widow, that's certainly something I learned earlier than I think some other people learned. But
yeah,
our society is set up like, everybody wants to. It doesn't matter what it is, but they are coming to you. They're giving you their opinion, and as an empath, I will say, I mean, I think I had known this about myself before, but when it was about grieving my husband, it completely physically wore me out.
Yes.
And then when I asked myself, well, what am I worn out from? And it was essentially feeling like I needed to try and help these other people feel better, and realizing I feel so much worse because I'm trying to help you feel better. And I'm the one in the worst situation,
You don't have the energy for that.
No, you don't have the energy.
All in breathing.
Yeah. Yep.
And, over and over and over, what I think it's so interesting is how there's always those that come and they always have to tell you one story that's worse.
Yeah.
I will never understand that piece that's supposed to make you feel better. I don't get that one.
Well, the only conclusion I ever come with that is like, well, at least they're trying to talk to you. They don't know what to say. So, I mean, I think everybody falls in that, you're grieving somebody. It doesn't matter what people say. It's messed up. Unless it's like, I'm here for you, or what do you need? And literally actually doing it, there's not much you can say. It just stinks. No. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. So.
Well,
But that's how I do the gratitude. I do it all day long, and I don't care what it is. As soon as I sense that I'm irritated with someone, I bless them.
oh, so as quickly as you recognize
As soon as I recognize it. Now, I might be spending a half an hour on, doing a little mental exercise of hurting them. But as soon as I realize what rotten thing I'm doing, I realize they don't do things like that for no reason. None of us do. And so I bless them, and I bless them 3 times. And if it doesn't leave my mind, then I keep blessing them.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay. So that's a ritual.
Mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing this. You can keep nagging me and coming back for all that negative entertainment, but I'm going to keep doing this until this stops in my brain, and it stops because I've recognized it.
That's similar to what I understand a mantra to be for. So essentially you're using that as a mantra just to distract the monkey mind.
Absolutely. And it works. But I tell the mind, I'm going to keep doing this. So you can keep harping away on me. But I'm sorry, the party's over. And if you don't know to go home, I'm going to tell you it's over.
I find that if you actually acknowledge, because what you're doing there is you're acknowledging the fact that the mind is behaving in a certain way that you don't want for it to behave. And so as soon as you acknowledge that that's what's happening, it's almost like it puts it right in line. It's almost like the mom saying, tell me what you're doing. Like instead of saying you're doing this wrong thing, stop doing that. Tell me what you're doing so that they can then articulate, oh, I'm doing this thing that I'm not supposed to be doing, Mom.
Oh,
it makes a different impact. Yeah. That's a beautiful way of gently taking care of that monkey mind and establishing a habit. It does so many things on so many levels.
Yes. And then on the other hand, it cares for the other person. It's all, to me, it always comes down to that respect. I may not always feel loving towards someone. I would like to. I would like to be able to be that kind of person, but I'm not. I have this strong, opinionating, judgmental type personality. The warrior. I'm Aries, and it's been long and hard work to get to this place to gentle this soul that can be a warrior in another way.
Yes.
And that's about respect.
Yeah. And it really does all start with you, because if you start to respect yourself, then you can very easily see other people. Like you said, if they're behaving in a way that's not, really not caring, there's a reason, right? And it's not a good reason it doesn't validate the behavior, but it does give you more compassion to understand, oh, they must be struggling with something, just like I was struggling with this other thing. Yeah.
Yes. It levels the playing ground for them. I'm not better than them.
I think it stops the cycle when that happens, because, all the years people talking about bullies, I'm not saying that bullies don't exist or anything like that, but the fastest way to deal with a bully is to turn around and send them love, because they're not doing it to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. They don't know how.
Yeah. Well, what a lovely topic. I think we should continue having that at least trickle through the rest of our conversations, because I think it's really the foundation for making big changes in our lives.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I sure enjoy this. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining me, and we will talk again next week.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical and Infamous podcast with the Happy Lion Center. Send requests for topic discussions, questions, and comments to podcast@happylioncenter.com. That's podcast@happylioncenter.com.